Dear friends, welcome to YouTube channel and our prestigious channel Dr. Vet. Here I will talk about anthrax, especially in cattle and sheep. The disease is very long. It is very important also. So I have made this video in two parts. In this anthrax part 1, we will see various synonyms, introductory part, etiology, epidemiology and its various parts, transmission, host affected, and pathogenesis. The rest of the thing we will see in Anthrax Part II. Here we will see various synonyms. There are many names of this disease over the world. Some famous names you will see here. It is called as a splenic fever because the spleen is greatly enlarged. This is the characteristic of disease. In some of the countries, it is named as charbon because the body become burning like a black color or reddish brown black. So named as charbon. It is also named as wool sorter's disease. How this name derived? When the infected sheep died, their wool is collected and sent to the sweater industry, shawl industry, or blanket industry. Where there are wool sorters, there are laborers to sort the wool. They are called as wool sorters. And when they sort the wool, the spores in the wool float into the air. And these wool sorters inhale these spores into their respiratory system. And they develop a serious carbuncle or abscess in lung. That disease in wool sorter is named as a famous name, wool sorter's disease. Malignant carbuncle. This is also a famous name in human being. When there is wound in the hand of human being, through wound, this organism enter into the body and they produce a severe, serious abscess and multiple abscess. So due to severity, it is called as malignant, and abscess, that is called carbuncle. The disease occur as a peracute and acute form. Peracute, there is all of a sudden development of a disease, severe symptom, and there is a death of animal within a day or two. There is presence of organism into the blood, along with it toxin also, producing a severe manifestations, that is septicemic disease. The disease is very common in cattle and sheep in comparison to the other animals. and disease lead to a sudden death. In disease, there is characteristic extensive enlargement of spleen is observed, so named splenic fever. Dear veterinarian, remember this is a zoonotic disease spread from infected animal to human being during processing of wool and hides. So we also have to be careful for this disease. It may contract the disease even to us also. So please be careful. The anthrax is caused by Bacillus anthracis both in human beings and animals. Let us see some of the characteristics of the organism. Organisms are non-motile, capsulated. Generally, these capsules are observed in animal body. They are gram positive. Important thing here, spore forming. When they are exposed to air, they form spore, and the spores are dangerous. Organisms are straight, very large, rod-shaped, and form a small short chain. The important thing here is that the organism has two virulent factors. Due to this factor, the organism survive in the body and able to produce disease also. In the body, they form a capsule, vegetative form. These capsule contain poly-D-glutamic acid. This acid resists the phagocytosis of this organism by host immune cells and is coded by a virulent plasmid PXO2. So this poly-D-glutamic acid protects the organism in body from phagocytosis. Another factor, triple toxins. They produce three type of toxin. One, edema factor that causes edema in the body. Lethal factor that causes death of the body cells. And the third factor, protective antigen factor that protects the organism in the body. And these triple toxin factors are coded by plasmid PXO1. So these two factors, virulent factors, are very much important for disease producing and organism produce a very serious disease in the body. The organisms produce spores when they expose to external environment. In body, they are vegetative form, capsulated. But when they are exposed to external environment air, they form spores. And these spores live for a very long time, long period. Literature says that these spores are viable for 25 to 40 years in a soil. That means they are able to produce disease for up to 25 to 40 years. This is the important for the outbreaks of the disease. There are several predisposing factors working for the development of disease. The pH of infected soil, infected wool and hide. Remember here, alkaline soil reserves the organism. That means in alkaline soil, pH 9, the organism remain viable. But the acid medium of the soil destroys the organism. So soil pH governs the outbreak of disease. In wet soil and in stagnant water, the spores are concentrated and remain suspended. The major sources of infection are contaminated bone meal. When contaminated bones are used for the production of bone meal for the supply of mineral mixture and feed to the other animal, the other animal may get infection by ingestion. Pasture contaminated with tannery influence or slaughterhouse or hide factory, if they contain anthrax organism, they contaminate soil, soil contaminate pasture, and animal get infection. Fodders grown on infected soil. Infected soil infect the fodder. When the animal consumes such fodder, animal get infection. The spores in the upper soil may die, may be killed, but the spores which are deep into the soil, they survive. So when there is turning up of the soil, the spores which are deep into the soil may come to the upper surface of the soil and they cause outbreak. The blood and other discharges from the infected animal may infect the soil, may infect the food, may infect the other animals. We will see the prevalence of infection. The disease is distributed worldwide, but more common prevalence is observed in African countries. The prevalence depends upon the nature of soil. We have already seen that in alkaline pH, the organism survive. The acid pH destroys the organism. Prevalence also depends upon the climatic condition. Hot, humid climate, hot summer, hot environment, and humid climate, prolonged heavy rain produce hot, humid climate, and that causes the outbreak of the disease. And this nature of soil and climatic condition helps the scientist to forecast the occurrence of disease. They forecast that during these years the anthrax outbreak may occur, called anthrax year. The anthrax infection restricted to a particular area called anthrax belts, certain geographical area, anthrax belts, or angiotic region. In this region, certain cases are regularly occurring but at a low prevalence. During heavy and prolonged rainfall, after drought, dry summer, I have already told you, hot humid climate favors the formation of spore. When there is heavy rain, due to water flow from one region to the other region, the spores are carried to a very long distance, and wherever the spore goes, they are able to produce outbreak in that region. The vegetative proliferation cause outbreak of disease. In India, certain regions are angiotic. A low level of certain cases are occurring in angiotic areas. Here we will see the economic impact of anthrax. Anthrax cause a very severe economic losses. The various ways are: it causes high mortality among the adults, and we are losing a potentially milk high milk produced animals. There is reduction of the milk yield, loss of the animal, and when the disease occur, we have to vaccinate all animals. So we have to make expenses on vaccination. Not only that, expense is also required for control of disease. So in this way, the anthrax causes severe economic loss. The sources of infection of anthrax are contaminated soil. When the animal die, there is a oozing of blood and mucus from the natural orifices, from the mouth, from the nostril, from the eyes, from vagina, from anus. These come into contact of soil. When the anthrax organism come in contact with soil, they form resistant spores and they remain viable for a long, long period, even years. When there is heavy rain, this rainwater along with that stream, they carry the spores to another region and in future the outbreaks are observed in this area also. So the rainwater and their stream act as a conveying of organism from one place to other a long distance. The environment, especially hot humid climate, hot summer with excessive rain for a long time favors the development of disease and outbreak occurs. Infected excretions and secretions from animal. I have already told you when there is death of the animal, there is blood using, the mucus is using, the liquid is coming out from the animal from natural resources, from nostrils, mouth, anus, vulva. They contaminate the soil and environment, and outbreak occurs in various regions. The disease transmits from one animal to other animal by various ways, by ingestion of spores in human being, by inhalation of spores, and it produces whole sort of disease. I have already told you how it occurs. Contamination of wound occur by spores and it produces a malignant carbuncle on the skin, on the hands of workers, laborers. Mechanical transmission occur through tabanid fly bite. The cattle and sheep are highly susceptible as compared to goat and horses. Human is less susceptible than cattle. Pigs, dogs, and cats are relatively resistant. Wild animal, the hippopotamus, Cape buffalo, and elephants die in large numbers due to anthrax outbreaks. Persons working in wool and hide industries are mostly affected. Here we will see pathogenesis, how the organism produce a disease in body. Discharges and materials when exposed to air, spores are produced. So when the organism come in contact with external air, spores are produced. The spores are very resistant in the external environment. The spore remain alive for very long period, 25 to 40 years. We have already seen the factors that causes disease. The organism is resistant to phagocytosis in animal body due to presence of poly-D-glutamic acid that is present in the capsule. So due to capsule, the organism is protected in the body, and the organism has a three toxin, triple toxin factors. Edema factor causes edema in the body. Lethal factor cause death of the cells and tissue, and protective antigen that protect the organism. So this way the organisms are survive in the body, multiply body, and able to produce disease. First, the primarily the spores proliferate in the regional draining lymph node. Upon entry, they reach to regional draining lymph node. There the spores are proliferating. From regional lymph node, the organism travel via lymph and lymphatic vessel and reach the bloodstream. Now they enter into the blood. They produce septicemia. Many organisms with plenty of toxin producing severe disease, and from blood there is massive invasion of all body tissues. Whole body is involved. The lethal toxin causes edema of the tissue damage, and death. The large number of the organism block the capillaries. They don't allow blood to pass. And when they block the capillaries, they jam the capillary. It is called as log jam theory. And due to this blockage of capillaries, they initiate death. And when whole body is involved, the case becomes very severe, very serious. Death is due to shock, acute renal failure, and terminal toxemia. And finally, there is anoxia and death of the animals. Friends, you have observed video 1. The Anthrax Part II will be followed next. Requested to subscribe our Dr. Vet channel. Requested to forward more and more for the knowledge of our veterinarians, and thank you very much for observing this video.